What the demons are trying to do is replicate hell in this world. That's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. And part of that comes by having the kinds of relationships that they have with each other, which is what? They just beat on each other all the time. There's no capacity to love, or even when they help each other out, it's only for their own self-interest. And so even when they're done, they're like there's a certain demographic in our culture. It doesn't matter what good things you do to you, they never thank you, right? Well, it's the same thing that you'll see here, and that's one of the things we're trying to do within marriage.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, bless it.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Armor of God. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and hopefully you'll be edified with what we've put together for you here. Anyway, there are a few things I'd like to share with all of you in this video, and then some interesting stories as well. I'm sure for some of you who have been following this channel for quite a time now, I've shared several videos on the Freemasons before, and this will be another one on the playlist that I'd like to share with you. On another note, this video also focuses on family, which I not only find refreshing, but it will definitely not be a popular notion among progressive families these days. I mean, when was the last time we've heard a public figure in our society saying something like this?
Really, your child needs a Harvard education, right? No, he doesn't. You have no obligation to get your kid through college. Your obligation is to get them to the age of 18 and that state in which they have sufficient virtue and sufficient education in order to navigate the world.
Anyway, going back to the start of this particular clip, I'd like to kick this off what Father Chad Ripperger said about the Freemasons and how they started the swing culture. For those of you who aren't familiar with swing culture, sometimes called wife swapping, husband swapping, or partner swapping is a sexual activity in which both singles and partners in a committed relationship sexually engage with others for recreational purposes. I'm not going to elaborate any further though. I think you pretty much get the picture by now if you haven't already.
Our Lady said at Quito that the Freemasons, which by the way is a thoroughly diabolic institution, thoroughly from the bottom to the top. Now I'm not suggesting that the people at the bottom actually are Satanists, but when you get to the top, there's a shift that's actually happening culturally. Historically, it was Luciferian, which is different from Satanic. Luciferian is you become your own god, or that's generally what the Freemasons were at the top levels. But now what's happening is there's a slow shift that's actually occurring among the Freemasons where it's actually becoming satanic, openly satanic at the top. Okay. But they said they were going to, Our Lady said at Quito, they were going to attack marriage during the time we're living in. And they've done a phenomenal job with divorce, etc., and everything that they're doing. Most people don't know this, but the ones who started the swing culture in this country were actually the Freemasons. The ones that are backing all of the gay marriage and stuff like that are the Freemasons, in addition to other people. But they're the ones pushing for this because they're trying to destroy marriage. It just means that they're the instrument. It's the demons who are really after the destruction of marriage. Why? Because marriage is the foundation of culture. If you can destroy marriage, you can destroy the culture. If you can destroy the relationship that the husband and the wife have together, you'll destroy the moral and spiritual formation of the children. So they understand the structure better than we do, and they know exactly where to attack it.
And here's what Father Daniel Reehil said about the Freemasons. I always like to listen to different exorcists addressing the same issue. In a way, this helps me to understand much better about a certain subject.
In fact, the problem with the Masons is that the low levels of entry point, there's no mention or you would have no way of knowing there's something diabolical about the group. It's only when they get to the higher levels that they start realizing this is not what I thought it was. But at that point, you're already invested into it because they make you take these oaths. And the oaths have curses attached to them that if you ever break away from them, the curses will come upon you and your family and your descendants. So there's a lot of people who have health problems that can't be diagnosed by doctors. And they just say, we don't understand why you have these illnesses, particularly with the stomach, the GI tract, all sorts of things like that, allergies, food allergies, everything. And so there's a very, very long set of prayers. It's about 8 or 9 pages typed out. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to pray through them that break all these curses.
By the way, here's an example of a Master Mason taking his oath from a leaked video of their ceremony.
for senior warden. Release the candidate from the cable, though it being 3 times around his naked body is to signify that he is now bound to fraternity at a 3-fold tie.
Anyway, going back to the points made by Father Ripperger about family that I mentioned earlier in this video. As I said, it's refreshing to listen to this kind of message being shared around out there amidst the attacks on families these days.
The first 5 years of a child are absolutely crucial. And the reason they're crucial is why? Because it's during that time that these associations between good behavior and bad behavior arise. When you punish bad behavior and you reward good behavior, the child, that foundation of associations in his mind begins to be trained. The child's mind begins to be trained throughout the course of those first 5 years. But what they've discovered is that that association of right and wrong has to occur between the ages of, from the time, well, about 10 months or so until about 5 to 6, depending on when the child comes of reason. They also know that it's the empathy and the emotional empathy of the mother that is the guiding force in that process of directing the good and the bad in the mind of the child. The demons know that structure. They've known it forever because they know human nature. And so one of the first things they're always trying to do is get the parents separated, the child separated from the parents. So this is one of the things the demons are trying to do, is get them separated. This is why the church has always said that the husband actually has a right to the wife to stay home and take care of the children. The wife has a right to stay home and to be provided for. And this is something, because there's a generation coming up right now, you hear these guys saying this, well, if we can't make the ends meet, you're going to go out and get a job. Excuse me, my father worked 3 jobs so that my mother could stay at home, and if you're going to be a man like him, because I think my father is one of the most masculine men I've met, you're going to have to come up to speed here. Right? And it's just effeminacy, some guy welching on his responsibility. Okay. So he has a right for them to stay home. The children have a right. Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict, and Pope Francis have all said that the children have a right to be raised by their parents. A right. And it's a grave right because of the fact that it has a grave impact. And so it's important that we recognize this, because why? The demons are going to chisel away at that. They're going to try and get the focus on other things. Usually, they're going to try and get it to the point where they say, you know, really, your child needs a Harvard education, right?
The following points raised by Father Ripperger here, in regards to the standard of living in our children, I must admit that I'm guilty of this before, and I hope we can help one another by reminding ourselves when it comes to this thing.
No, he doesn't. You have no obligation to get your kid through college. Your obligation is to get them to the age of 18 and that state in which they have sufficient virtue and sufficient education in order to navigate the world. You're not obligated to send them through college. Is it a good thing to want to send them through college? Yeah, but you cannot commit grave sin by neglecting your children and putting them in daycare in order to do that later. Okay. Another thing that demons will do is try and tempt people to avarice and worldliness to obtain things. You know, the wife should go out home so she can get that extra car. We really want a bigger house. You need to go out and do that. Also, they'll constantly foster this expectation of having a standard of living that is unreasonable. They will incite people to have debt that is, they're not capable of paying it off, right? They're constantly getting people to do this, A, because they want the debt, because the person is not going to fulfill their obligations in justice to the bank or whoever, the credit card company, but they're also trying to do it in order to hold the couple hostage, right, to other people. So if they want a standard of living that's unreasonable. I mean, all of us know that when our parents first got married, they lived in an apartment and they had practically nothing. They were happy to have a couch and a bed. Now, kids get married, they want depending on where you live, a $300,000 to $400,000 house, 2 cars. They want it completely furnished. By the way, they need the boat, of course, and they need to have, ATVs and all this stuff the first year they're married. That is absolutely absurd. The other thing is, too, is it fails to see this. I see this with couples who don't go that route, who don't go the debt route, who just struggle along and and they'll have a large family, and so they have to live poorly. There's a certain joy you see in them through the struggle that they're trying to do. They're trying to achieve this by doing it right. There's a certain joy that you see in it. And part of this is because the spouse, again, the demons are trying to tempt the spouses to distract from the children's upbringing in order to bring them something that's not necessary. You don't need that. Demons will guilt parents into thinking that their children do not have a high enough standard of living. Oh, my kids, they deserve better. In fact, what your kid really deserves is for you to help him develop virtue, and if that means he has a lower standard of living, that's a good thing.
Anyway, here's another one from Father Daniel Reehil. I hope all of you love listening to him. As I said in my previous video, I've been listening to Father Reehil's radio show quite a lot for the past 2 weeks, and I especially like it when callers call in and share their stories and ask questions about what to do about it. And as I have seen the subject of sleep paralysis being brought up quite often in the comments before, I feel it's always great to share something in relation to this subject, so hopefully all those who might be experiencing something similar will find this helpful.
Good morning, Father Dan. I wanted to ask something about sleep paralysis.
Sure.
When I was young, I was in college, and I was in the Catholic Church. I was raised Catholic, but like most of us, didn't read the Bible, didn't know really anything about my faith, just couldn't wait to get out of church. So when I went to college, I didn't go. I lived in the Bible Belt, and there wasn't any Catholic. I don't think there was any even a Catholic church around, but I probably wouldn't have went anyway. But anyway, one night I'm laying in bed, and I'm on the second, 6th or 7th floor of this high-rise women's dorm, and I'm laying down to sleep, and my roommate is not in, and all the windows are open, so I can hear the people talking outside and stuff. And I'm almost asleep, and all of a sudden I feel this kind of numbness and weight on me. And I want to move, and I can't. But I feel like I'm awake, I'm conscious. And all of a sudden I have this extreme fear, and I get to look over to my left, and there's this huge dark thing, looks like the Grim Reaper standing beside me, with like a black hood over it, and my heart rate starts going, and all of a sudden it reached out to me, and I thought I was going to explode. I was so fearful, and so it just came to my mind to pray, to start. So I started praying the Hail Mary to myself, and then my roommate had just come in, and she heard me breathing real hard, and she said, "What is wrong with you?" And then as soon as she did that, I sat up bolt right. Anyway, what is really odd was the very next day, they had a woman and a husband, a wife and a husband team, and they came to the college and they were giving this lecture. I had no idea what it was, or maybe I did. But anyway, they were talking about demons and stuff, and they mentioned the exact same thing that had happened to me. And the thing was, she said that you're supposed to envision a cross of light on you and say some kind of prayer. But anyway, over the years, I went back to church with my family. I wasn't into Catholicism, but I felt my children should go to parochial schools because I felt they were the best. So I married a Catholic man. Like me, he wasn't into the faith. But we go anyway, we do the motions, but we're not into it. And then the big pedophilia thing comes around 2000, and I said, we're out of here. These people are losing their churches because of these pedophiles. The Vatican's not helping them out, and I was furious. So I left. And during those 18 years, I looked at everything. I was dabbling in it all. And then during that time, I had a couple more of the sleep paralysis stuff. Anyway, 2019, I come back to the church, and I come back in a big way. I'm reading everything. I'm learning all about the faith I didn't know. And so everything's going pretty good for a couple of years. And then this last year or so, it's like I feel oppressed. I want to fast and pray, and there's always an excuse for me not to do it. And I was wondering if you had any idea what the deal is.
There are spirits that do push themselves on us, particularly at night when we're sleeping. That's why you should always have a blessed crucifix over your bed. I keep rosary beads in the bed with me because this has happened to me even as an exorcist. These things show up and harass me. And those things keep them away. Make sure you go to confession and confess all of your years away from the church where you were dabbling in whatever. And there's a spirit of sloth. So you want to
Yeah, I
take
got it.
authority over that, over yourself. In the name of Jesus Christ, I bind all spirits of sloth off of me. And then the remedy is to go immediately get up and do something that you wanted to do, and just do it. You have to force yourself
Okay.
to do it. It breaks the cycle.
And now for the last part of this video, as I have done for several videos recently, I'd like to share something inspirational with all of you, and it's about a man called Rob Kenny. And what's special about this man here? Well, meet the dad who's teaching basic skills on YouTube for kids without a father figure. Rob Kenny's painful past and his own search for God has enabled him to help others with absent parents. His dad abandoned him and his 7 siblings when he was just 14 years old. At a time when he was on the path to young adulthood, he had no father to guide him on the way. It was a heartbreaking experience as a young boy, but how seeking out God when his own marriage was in difficulty enabled him to forgive his dad just before his dad died in his 80s. A few years ago, with a wife of 29 years and 2 successful adult children, Christine, who works with kids, and Kyle, a software engineer, Kenny decided to pay it forward, as he explained. My goal in life was to raise good adults. Not good children, but good adults. The fact that his kids had both grown up and left the house left him thinking how he might help others. The period of quarantine during the COVID-19 pandemic turned out to be a perfect time for him to finally share some basic essentials for kids who might be growing up in difficult circumstances, maybe because they'd lost a parent or had parents who were absent. So the devoted dad set up a heartwarming YouTube channel called Dad, How Do I? A channel that shares essential skills, from tying a perfect tie knot to the less glamorous, unclogging a sink. I want it to be about everyday tasks, but I also would like to pass along some of the wisdom I've learned along the way to encourage people. I thought I was just going to be showing people how to do stuff, but it's kind of resonating on a whole different level. Rob's positive practical tips have really touched his audience, which is growing by the day. With 4.6 million subscribers, Kenny is getting to share his practical advice for everyday tasks with more people than he expected. And Kenny's message of thanks in one of his videos is delightful. He doesn't assume his tips are the best, and he's aware of the many other sources online. He also recognizes his own failings as a father and the importance of seeking forgiveness. And before ending on a corny dad joke, he expresses the need to just be kind to each other. Rob Kenny has proved to be just what the internet needs, a positive, practical, and caring dad who wants to share his skills. It's no surprise that he's garnered so many subscribers and positive messages in return. The incredible success of Rob Kenny's videos demonstrates the need for a positive father figure in a child's life, and now millions of kids who've not had that experience can benefit from this thoughtful, kind, and good-humored dad. Well, that is all for the video this time. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and as always, hopefully all of you have learned a lot from this video. And remember, if there's any suggestion or feedback, please do let me know in the comments below. Anyway, for those of you who'd like to support our works, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much to everyone who has helped us with your contribution, support, and prayers. And until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and Merry Christmas.